Simile. So a simile is a comparison. When you compare one thing to another and you use the word like, as, or than, usually somewhere in the middle, like this is like this, or this is as something else, or this is more or less than this other thing. So it's trying to compare two things. And really, they're being compared to highlight a similarity, hence the name simile. So this is like this in one way, like maybe, I don't know, like a rose, like this is like a rose because they're a similar red color, something along those lines. They're trying to highlight how things are common, usually to describe the first thing. Like in this example here, a person says, our apartment was hotter than the sun. It was like standing in a frying pan. There's two similes there. And the first one is comparing our apartment to the sun. It's saying the apartment is hotter. Of course, this is figurative. It's not being literal, but it's wanting to make the comparison to how hot it is. It's as hot, if not hotter than it's like being in the sun. The second one, they say it was like standing in a frying pan. Again, the apartment, being in the apartment, is similar to, it's like the experience of standing in a frying pan. So again, it's figurative, but they're trying to express the feeling of just being in a hot apartment. And, we can't always do that literally. You can't just say, our apartment's warm, our apartment's hot. That literal language doesn't always communicate the true feeling. So by using the simile and comparing it to something the reader or listener knows, like the sun or a frying pan, that comparison is helping them understand this first side, the apartment, more clearly. An example in poetry, in Lola Ridge's poem Altitude, she writes, I wonder how it would be here with you, where the wind that has shaken off its dust in the low valleys touches one cleanly, as with a new washed hand. And pain is as the remote hunger of droning things, and anger, but a little silence sinking into the great silence. Beautiful poem. I think it paints like a nice picture of this moment. So, just judging by the title, altitude, meaning like to be at a great height or how high you are. Um, so, to me, if we talk about it literally, I imagine this. I don't know. We could imagine the person standing on the top of a mountain for this poem, or it might be a metaphor for something like success, like reaching a peak, reaching a pinnacle. But let's just imagine it's about standing on top of a mountain, and they say, I wonder what it would be like to be here with you. They describe where the wind that has shaken off its dust in low valleys, touches one cleanly, as with a new washed hand. So it's saying the wind, imagine standing on top of a mountain, the wind's blowing over you. It says this wind, all of the dust has been shaken out of this wind earlier in the valley. Like as the wind works its way up the mountain, the dust has came out, the smells have came out. It's like this fresh wind blowing over. And they say this wind blowing over, it's similar to being touched by a newly washed hand. So trying to make this comparison of this wind, which feels fresh, like all the pollution, all of the dust has came out of it. Like being touched by a newly washed hand, like just running over them. They make another simile on comparing, pain to this like droning sound in the distance. But I really like this simile in the beginning of altitude. There's a couple examples of simile.